do you call a person with Down syndrome that smokes weed? A baked potato. To those of you who maybe hesitated to laugh at that joke, was there a reason why perhaps you did so?
I did not think this joke was funny. One, it's just an unintelligent joke, and you're comparing a person to an inanimate object, and I think it's really important to identify a person as a person. So today we will argue that it's politically incorrect to joke about people with cognitive disabilities because they might perceive the joke more literal than intended. It further alienates them from others, and parents are secondarily affected by these jokes. According to the article written by David Emrich and others in June 2003, the comprehension of humorous materials by adolescents with high-functioning autism and Asperger's syndrome. He hypothesized that individuals with Asperger's or high-functioning autism may have difficulty with humor comprehension. In other words, some of these individuals may have difficulties understanding sarcasm or rhetorical questions, and if this is used with those individuals, it can be considered a form of teasing because it can just further alienate them. And during my interview on Thursday, March 16th with Ms. Linder, who is a specialist in child education, mentioned that individuals with cognitive disabilities can identify when a joke is being made at their expense. However, they may not understand the content or how to react to the content. Therefore, the cognitively impaired may understand just as much as individuals who are not impaired. They just understand at a slower rate. And these individuals are considered to have a minor to moderate impairment, which means that their IQ level is less than 70, more specifically between 50 and 70. And some tests performed by David Emrich show that 35% of adults with high-functioning autism or Asperger's are able of telling and comprehending higher-level humor, and 16% of this humor was adult humor. And in the article, Facial Emotion Recognition in Williams syndrome and Down syndrome, a matching and developmental study that was published in June 2015 by Pastor Martinez Castilla and others, stated that individuals with Williams syndrome and those with Down syndrome present the same pattern of emotion recognition as individuals who are not impaired. And again, it's just at a slower rate, but they still understand that jokes are being made about them at their expense, and in this particular situation, it's through facial recognition. And again, they may not know how to respond or stand up for themselves, but that doesn't justify a reason to break down their self-esteem through jokes that can be considered offensive. So again, even if they feel like they're the only ones who don't understand a joke, it's not okay. It just makes them feel like they don't belong, and it will further alienate them.
Jokes can further alienate someone who may already feel like they are alienated from the rest of society. In the Kennedy Institute of Ethics Journal from December 2013, in the article A Disability Critique of the New Prenatal Test, Chris Capasi says that one study found that over half of the young people with cognitive disabilities had either no friends or only one. He also says that people with cognitive disabilities find it difficult to break into spheres of intimacy, usually exemplified by meaningful friendships or inclusion in informal social groups. This shows that how difficult it is for people with cognitive disabilities to fit into average societal patterns. They already have limited confidence reaching out to others, so if jokes are being made about their social behavior, they may be too afraid to try it all. According to the article, How Are Asperger's Syndrome and High-Functioning Autism Different?, written by the organization Autism Speaks, children with Asperger's are socially awkward in a manner that is not easily understood. So making jokes about someone already alienated from society further separates them. And if people don't understand something, it can be daunting or intimidating to them. This goes a lot hand in hand with people not trying to understand the cognitively impaired. In the article, School Reorientation of Children with Disabilities, a Stressful Life Event Challenging Parental Cognitive and Behavioral Adjustment, written by Isabel Roscom and others in the spring of 2008, children with disabilities should be educated with children who do not have disabilities unless that education in regular classes cannot be achieved satisfactorily. So this shows that students with cognitive disabilities are separated from others based on their disabilities and put into different classrooms. The jokes being made about it will only make it harder to cope with their differences and perpetuate alienation. Children with cognitive disabilities have limited opportunities as it is to make their own decisions with their education, whether it be their parents or a counselor making the decisions for them. So there's no need for jokes pointing out differences from people who can't even possibly begin to understand what they're going through.
During our interview with the head of Access and Disability here at MCC, Miss O'Connell, on March 17th by Zach and myself, she goes on to talk about how kids with Asperger's can make autism jokes because it's theirs. It's their identity, they own it. And when their group gets bigger, it becomes a population. And it's a group they can bond with, they share common ground, that they can have interactions with, they can talk, they can stand up there and talk about their disability in a positive sense. They're up there having the laughs, enjoying it, not in a negative connotation. Later in the interview, she talks about how it's a different story when the person telling the joke does not have a cognitive disability. It becomes, instead of a sense of empowerment for the individual, it's more a sense of power that person holds over the individuals with the cognitive disabilities. To put it kind of into perspective, imagine like when you're hanging out with your friends and they kind of like, they call you like stupid, they're like, hey stupid, you're like, what? It doesn't really mean anything to you because they're your friends, you kind of understand what they mean. But if like you're at Target in the aisle and someone calls you stupid, you're kind of like, what? Huh? You're confused on why they called you that, and you kind of like, it sticks with you longer than when your friend called you that. And sometimes when these kids can't solve the issue of alienation like through these groups, sometimes their parents like to get involved, and if their parents can't get involved, they tend to feel that they are to blame.
Parents of the cognitively disabled are secondarily affected by the jokes. In the article, Bullying and the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, written by Sarah Ganley in October 2016, it mentioned, parents of a child with Down syndrome who was repeatedly made fun of in class were forced to take an executive measures to try to get their child moved into a friendly environment to learn in. One of the child's special ed teachers described the classroom that didn't accommodate to the special need children as a hostile environment for her. Even with it being in a hostile environment, according to her, an individual with an education program, IEP, still suggested that the child should stay in class, even though evidence was showing of bullying. In the article, School Reorientation of Children with Disabilities, A Stressful Life, Event Challenging Parental Cognitive and Behavioral Adjustments, written by Isabel Roscom et al. In spring 2008, it stated, parents of a school-aged child who has a disability typically reports high levels of stress and high risks of depression. People don't understand that these children are suffering in school and outside of school. Making a joke of an impaired individual affects the parents arguably more than the kids themselves. For example, in the article Parenting of a Disabled Children, written by Joanna Griffin in October 2016, she mentions, a survey of parents showed that they felt as though they had caused impairment of their child. They wonder if they could have prevented it in any way. Obviously, parents can't prevent the disability of their child, or else there wouldn't be any disabled children in this world. Who would want to, a parent would not like to have a disabled child, especially because it's hard to cope with them and their differences. People who make jokes about a disabled individual are heartless. You don't know what they're going through, you don't know their challenges, and you don't know any of their life impacts. These jokes are not funny. During Louisa's interview with Ms. Linder on March 16, 2017, she told her a story about a mom whose daughter had an impairment. She told her that the mother was a guest in the classroom and spoke to the students about the negative comments that were being portrayed to her daughter that had Down syndrome. Ms. Linder said that the mother admitted how she never used to say anything to those people who would make jokes and negative comments about her daughter. She never stood up to them. She would just let them make jokes and negative comments, and she would just walk away holding back her tears. Her daughter finally heard, and she asked her mother if those negative comments and those jokes were being made fun of her. Her mom finally realized that she didn't want that message to say to her daughter that it was okay for others to make fun of her. She wanted her to know that her mother was standing right beside her. With that being said, the jokes making fun of an individual with a disability affects a lot more of the family and the emotions than the person who is being made fun of. I'd like to show you a brief video of a woman who's talking about her disability. It was posted by CoorDown on March 16th, accessed on March 29th.
Special needs. Special needs? Really? It would be special if people with Down syndrome needed to eat dinosaur eggs. That would be special.
1 dinosaur egg. Enjoy.
Man, I think you were totally right about Lindsay.
If we needed to wear a giant suit of armor, that would be special.
I got a condo in Manhattan. Baby girl, what's happening? So gonna get to clapping. Go pop a phone.
It would be special if we needed to be massaged by a cat. If we needed to be woken up by celebrity.
Wiki, eggs and bakey. Where are you? You may know me from Scrubs or Office Space. A few darker flicks, The Rock, Platoon, Wall Street. Funny story, I played Ben.
Get out.
My bad.
That would be special. But what we really need is education, jobs, and opportunities, friends, and some love. Just like everybody else. Are these needs special?
Who would want to make a joke, to look at her in the eye and make fun of her disability when they don't need any more extreme accommodations? Everyone has their own challenges, staff leaving wounds and scars to the parents of those who have a disabled child, who have a much harder time coping with the differences of their daily lives than the rest of us.
In conclusion, making jokes about the cognitively impaired violates the taboo of political correctness. It makes the cognitively impaired feel confused about the reason for the joke and the meaning behind it. Further repercussions include isolation, self-identification issues, and the parents being secondarily affected emotionally. All in all, nobody can stop jokes being made at the expense of others, but as a whole, people should consider how a joke will be perceived by an individual and how it would affect them. A joke is not worth damaging somebody's self-image whom already has more on their plate than the average person. Thank you.